All right, and welcome back to the Kohler Show. I am your host, Kohler. Real quick, just want to remind everybody to like the video, to subscribe to the channel, or follow the podcast on whichever platform you're using. It's so quick and easy to do, and it helps out a lot. Well, maybe not, but in the long run, maybe. Just don't be a dick about it. All right. Um, so on my previous episode, which was a sports episode, I talked about the new direction the show's going in, and here's what I've decided is I still don't know what any of this is. I don't know where anything in my career is going. I'm 28 years old and have almost nothing figured out, and I'm actually okay with that. And I think most people should be. But I know what I want to do. Do I know how to get there? We will see. I don't want to be put in a box. I have so many interests. I have so many things that I enjoy following and that I have takes on. I have takes on almost anything. I want to be a sports writer, but I also want to be a comedian. I want to be I would like to dip my toes in the acting. I want to really an author. I would like to really just across the board try everything, and I think there's a way to do that. I think you're kind of the way society goes is you can't do all that stuff, but I would like to at least try. And you know what? Maybe one day I will quit or give up and go back to the silly jobs that we do that pass the time that you get paid for, and maybe you work your way up, maybe you don't. You usually get treated pretty badly anyways. So, I mean, I might as well go for this and try and win the lottery per se, and be able to do what I want to do rather than go do something I don't want to do and waste more years of my life doing that. Especially when I'm young. I can do that when I'm old. It's not like I have anybody to look out for right now. It's kind of just me. As sad as that may be. The lights went out, literally, which is concerning because I only have 3 lights. So it's just another hurdle in this thing. But yeah, anyways, so Powerball is up to 1.5 billion, which has to be like one of the highest it's ever been at. I'm not 100%. I don't have the facts. I didn't look it up. But 1.5 billion, which is a cash payout of, I think it was $746 million cash payout, which would be pretty cool. So yeah, I'm playing the Powerball. I'm gonna win. I'm gonna speak it into existence. I'm gonna win the Powerball. What am I gonna do with the winnings? I don't know. Like people, whenever you talk about stuff like that, they're always like, oh, I would buy 45 cars. And I just don't see myself doing that. Like, I don't even know what you would do with that. Like, I would give it to charity. Like, charity is one of the biggest scams there is. I wouldn't give my shit to charity. Maybe start my own charity. But yeah, I just love that one. It's like one of those things when you're like, I don't want to learn a new language. And people are like, why don't you want to learn a new language? It's like, because I don't fucking care to learn a new language. It's like with the money thing. I don't know. I guess I'd buy a nice house. I'd buy a nice car. And you probably wouldn't hear from me again. Well, no, you'd probably hear from me again. I'd probably make a big deal of it. Anyways, Love is Blind. Love is Blind season 3 is out on Netflix. Netflix is really milking this one. They've kind of made the seasons longer every time with how they release them. And I thought this was going to be like the season finale where it was like, I'd be able to talk about everything, but they only showed one wedding, 1.5 weddings. And so I guess there'll be another episode on this tomorrow, or not tomorrow, next week. So Love is Blind, as previously discussed, in another episode of this podcast is a Netflix show. I like to call it Millennial, the dating show, because it's just like the most millennial shit you'll ever see in your whole life. It's people that are lonely and and can't find anyone that wants to date them. Usually in their like early 30s, late 20s. There are some people that are like 24, 25 that go on the show, which I think is bonkers. As a 28-year-old man that's single and has never really dated anyone. So you go and they put you in like Mexico, and you go on these dates where you're just sitting in separate rooms with a wall dividing you. And then you guys just talk about whatever, and you date everybody that show gets together. So it's like 20 guys, 20 girls, or whatever the number is. And then usually it's 5 or 6 couples will propose to each other, and then you're engaged, and then you meet each other, have a honeymoon type thing, where you just kind of bullshit for a week. And then you live together for like 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. And then you get married. And the whole thing of the show is like, at the end, it's like, will they say I do? Which is insane that you would even sign up for that. Like, there's no way that these people aren't doing this for followers and attention. There's no way. If I was on this show, it would be for attention, almost purely for attention, which I don't know where my life is going to take me in the future, but if I do get on the show, this clip right here will shoot me in the dick, saying that I do actually fall in love. But what I would do is I would just find the most ridiculous person and chat them up, and then just go after them and just have my story be the most ridiculous part of the whole show the whole time. And then, of course, say no. And I'd be the biggest villain for it. But honestly, how can you take this show seriously? It's an ass backwards way. Well, I guess that would be a different show. Okay. It's an ass backwards way of doing anything. And I get it's like I love that they do it because the show's fucking great. Like the stuff you see and the people you see, it's like clearly there's a reason that they're in this situation, and the fact that they have to be matched up with another person that's similarly fucked up is hilarious. Not saying that I'm not, because I am. I just wouldn't do it on a show like this. I would rather go on a competition show. Anyways, so dating now is like this weird, it's almost not possible. There's dating apps, and the best way to really do it is, the old school way of just like, having friends. But that's not how it goes ever, because most of the time there's people already on the dating apps, and people are dating multiple people at a time. So it's hard to really even like keep up with any of that, especially if you're like a somewhat average dude. And this isn't, whenever I say stuff like this, it always comes to like, oh, you have like low self-confidence. I'm not low self-confidence. I probably have too much confidence. It's purely like self-awareness. Like, yeah, I don't think I'm a bad looking dude, but I hang out with really good looking dudes. So I hang out with dudes where they don't even like try at bars, and like girls just come up and hit on them. And then I'm just the funny friend in the background. And I'm not saying I've not had my day, because I've had my days, but if you're not one of these dudes on the dating apps, which like the numbers is like 10% of the guys get like 80% of the matches from females, and then it's like almost vice versa. So I mean, it's like it's impossible basically if you're not like 6'2" or like 250,000 a year and have a boat, which I don't. So dating now is like completely fucked up anyways. And instead of going on this show, I'd rather just like die alone. And I think that's what more people need to come to terms with is you're going to die alone. And you need to be more accepting of that. You need to not be going and applying for shows like The Bachelor or Love is Blind, or, I mean, Too Hot to Handle. You're probably not going to die alone. You'll probably be fine. But yeah, these people, which, I mean, I'm not knocking them for trying. Like, yeah, go try and find the love of your life. And it's only happened like twice in the 3 seasons of the show. And there's maybe one couple in this season that I'm rooting for. But for most of us, you need to just accept that there is nobody. You're probably going to sputter out, and maybe like your 40s or your 50s is where you'll find love. But it's not now. Like most of us are just good looking enough to get laid every once in a while. And then the rest of us are either married already or incels. So yeah, that's the positive note of dating, is that there's no reason to try. You should just give up. You should just do what I'm doing. Have a podcast that nobody watches, and do stand-up comedy at open mic nights that nobody goes to, and write blogs that nobody reads. Start social media accounts that nobody follows, and just live in your own world. If you convince yourself enough that you are bipolar, your delusions of grandeur will really carry you through the rest of your life. But there's no reason to go on Love is Blind and like fake propose. Like, today's November 3rd. I couldn't imagine if I was getting married on December 3rd. Like, I've barely liked people enough to text them more than 2 times. So like, and honestly, what we should blame is we should blame society, and we should blame the way we were raised and everything else. And we should blame social media, and we should blame everything but ourselves. We didn't do this. There's definitely not an issue with hookup culture. There's definitely not an issue with modern day dating. The cream rises to the top. And because of that system, most of us will be unsuccessful. It's capitalism. Most of us will either settle for somebody we honestly don't like and work a shitty job and, you know, go through the motions until you either off yourself in your early 40s in like a bathtub, or she cheats on you and you get divorced, and then you have to like go through like the whole, you know, raising divorced kids thing, which further fucks up society. Or lost my train of thought there. But those are like the 2 best options, like for most of us that aren't, you know, that top 10% guy that are like I'm 5'10". Even when I was employed and not living in my parents' basement, I only made, you know, like I only made like $100,000, $120,000. Like, it wasn't that much, to like, you know, I had enough to go like blow it out on the weekend. And then that was all the real time I had. And you're going to get fat, and like, you're going to lose all motivation to do anything by the time you're like 26. So if you are one of those people, do it by like 26, because once you get to like 30 and you're not making all that money, like, it's not a good look. So you should just, what I'm saying is, if you're good looking, settle. And if you're not good looking, work really hard at something that nobody cares about, hoping that one day it does blow up, and maybe you'll hit the lottery. Call back to earlier, Powerball, 1.5 million. Maybe you'll hit the lottery and you will get famous, or you'll have a successful company blow up like Elon Musk. And I'm not talking really too much to females. Like, I mean, most of you go for like that upper echelon guy, and only 10% of you are going to get that. So the rest of you need to buy cats, get a 1-bedroom apartment, like upgrade from the studio to the 1-bedroom apartment, or like get out of the 2-bedroom apartment with a roommate or a 3-bedroom apartment with a roommate and, you know, get a 1-bedroom apartment and live by yourself and get into something political that you're really passionate about, like climate change. And once you're so into climate change, that becomes your whole personality, is that and like cats. And that's all you talk about. And like every guy finds you unbearable anyways. And you just spend your nights flipping through the Netflix romance section movie, trying to find a good rom-com that kind of like encapsulates what you're going through. But like rom-coms have happy endings. And maybe one day you'll figure it out, but probably not. And that's what dating is today. And for guys, like if you blow up, if this podcast gets millions of views and like I get picked up by Barstool Sports and I you know get millions of followers, I will be happy. And I will have made it to the mountaintop. Is it likely? No. It's actually extremely unlikely. So even like trying this is like super stupid. Especially since all of what I say will be uploaded to the internet and then used against me in the future. So Love is Blind. So these couples, they go into these rooms, right? Without seeing each other, wall in between them. But there's like, it's like kind of like a lighting wall, so you can kind of see shadows. So they go in there and all these couples, and like you get the producers obviously do a really good job of showing you what every couple is about, or every person is about individually before they become a couple. So I just wanted to kind of touch on the best parts of that through the couples that go through, and there will be spoilers, obviously, because I'm going to be talking about it. So if you don't want to hear all of this and you want to actually watch the show, like leave, because I don't feel bad about if you like are like, oh, you spoiled that. So yeah, so the first couple we're going to talk about is the couple they actually showed, is SK and Raven. SK is a 34-year-old Nigerian dude, which is that's like a good age to go on the show, like good looking dude. Raven is a total, like she's hot. Raven is hot. And she has a thing with, she was picking between SK and Bertice. But in the pods, all she would do while people were talking to her was like work out, like do jumping jacks and shit, which is like not only extremely disrespectful, but like so ridiculous. Like I don't know why she thought that was like I get you need to get your reps in. But, like, shouldn't that be something you do? I don't know their schedule also in the pod, so I can't really judge them too much on that. But I would think you would have time to do, like, 90-minute little session workout in the morning, maybe something before you go to bed there. Maybe don't. Or maybe, you know, take the week off because you're on a show. But, yeah, so Bertice tells her this, like, story, and she's doing jumping jacks. And, like, of course, he can see the shadow through the glass. And he's like, what the fuck are you doing? And then, you know, not a good look. So she goes with, she says yes to SK, who's very traditionally Nigerian, and, you know, expects, you know, they're doing all these Nigerian culture things, which is a lot of cool stuff. Like, I'd like to go to a Nigerian wedding. They have cool outfits. I would love to buy one of those. But yeah, it's weird. They're not really. That's another thing with this show is physically, like none of these couple, well, not none of these couples, not true. Physically, some of the couples, like usually it's a one or two every show, like they don't physically get it. So I guess it took some time for them to, and you know, they go through their ups and downs, and like this is a good one. This is one you're rooting for. You're rooting for these kids, even though they're both older than me. And another part of the show, which I find like super, super crazy, is they go through this whole thing, which means they send out like, I don't know if it would be a letter or a text or an email, but you invite all these people to your wedding, right? not even knowing if the person's gonna say yes. Like, do you know how pissed I would be if I spent like a Saturday going to a fake wedding where you get there and it's like your boy from high school that you've known since like the sixth grade, and he invites you, and like, I mean, I wouldn't have a date, but theoretically you and your date like take your whole Saturday out, you get all dressed up, and then he gets up there and then he's like, they're like, the guy's like, and this is what happens because SK says no. He's like, no, I don't want to marry you. And then she leaves and cries. And by the way, SK's mom is a saint. Like, that lady was so nice. She played that perfectly. I don't know if she not played the right word because she was just being a good person. SK's mom's a good person. She goes and comforts Raven after he says no. But imagine you're standing in the, in the stands, in the crowd. Imagine you're attending the wedding and your boy SK from high school invites you, and you get all dressed up and you drive an hour and a half out to the location, and you're like, oh, this is going to be interesting. There are going to be cameras here. And then he gets up there and then he says no. Like, is there still a reception? Do you still get like an open bar at least? Because if you just go there and there's no open bar and you stand, like, I would be pissed if you like get all dressed up and like they're wearing all these like Nigerian garb, whatever. I don't know what they're called technically. But it's like, dude, don't invite me if you're going to say no. Because when you're going to say no like the night before. At least like shoot me a text. But yeah, that was the most. Yeah. So that was SK and Raven's wedding. It was interesting. So next couple, Bertice and Nancy, which is the next couple where this is the one they leave you in the cliffhanger before next week's. Bertice and Raven have like a thing because like Raven's a good look, like she's a hottie. Bertice is like tall and like in shape, and by the way, like the most corny, cheesy guy you'll ever see on a dating show is Bertice. Like, it's like, I don't know him personally. I don't know if you'd appreciate this or even see it, being that like 4 people see this podcast every episode. But Bertice is just like, every time he's on screen, you're getting ready for him to say some shit where you're like, dude, really? Like, anytime they do something like lovey-dovey, you're like, oh my God, bro. It's like uncomfortable, or cringe, I believe would be the correct terminology. So yeah, him and Raven are like, that's who you think he's gonna be like, yeah, you want to marry me? And then you're like, okay, this is gonna work. This is the 10% dude with the hot chick. But he says no because obviously she's doing jumping jacks when he's telling her like a story of like his mom dying or something. I don't remember what it was. I don't know if it was that, but he's telling her a story and she's like, working out. So he asked Nancy to marry him, which Nancy's pretty great. She's a fun girl. Like, this is a girl. And sorry, I can't do this with the dudes. I can only do it like as they were my friend, and girls, I can tell you what it would be like if I was trying to date them. Like me and Raven, she wouldn't find me attractive if I met her at like a bar or at a party, and like I would try and like land like 2 jokes, and they probably wouldn't. They'd probably go right over her head. She just doesn't seem like that kind of person that really likes comedy. And then she would be like, this guy's weird, and it would never work. We probably wouldn't really be friends. Like, if I met her and then saw her again, she wouldn't remember who I was, and I'd be like, oh, hey, it's Kohler from Bob's birthday party. And she'd be like, sorry, I meet a lot of people. You're like, okay, bitch. I'm not saying she's a bitch. I'm just saying she wouldn't remember me personally. So Nancy is like very nice. She's older, so she's like 30. I've written down she's 32, and I believe Bertice was 25, which 20, and he looks way older. He looks 40. But like 25 is way too young to go on the show. Like, you should still be going out to the bar every night. When you're 25, you should be like winding up at random apartments where like 4 people are sitting around a table at the after party, like doing blow, and like you're sitting there, you're trying to get laid still, or like you're at least talking to somebody that, maybe you're interested in, and like you send like a you up text. That's the part of his life he should be in, not like I need to get married to a random person that I've never seen before. And that becomes like a big issue here. Big issue here. So Nancy, who's like kind of more like she's like a smaller Mexican lady. She's not attractive. She kind of looks like her breath would smell, but that's just off optics. I'm not saying it does. That's just my thoughts from watching the show. And she's not unattractive. She's not like a smoke. The first night she's talking about like if she like blew up the bathroom at somebody's house that they were visiting, like if they went on like one of those like The Office, the Michael Scott episode with the small TV where Jim and Pam and Dwight and Angela, is it Dwight and Angela? No, Andy and Angela go and visit them, and like that, like that's what I imagine she's talking about. But she's like, yeah, if I blew up the toilet and it wouldn't go down, if it wouldn't flush, and like they're in the bathtub night 1 talking about this, I would immediately grab my shit and leave. Like that's that shit that I don't like. What? Night 1 in the bathtub? No. But yeah, that type of girl is what we're talking about. She'd either really like me or like I would do something to offend her, and she would probably never talk to me again too. But yeah, Bertice, after all the couples get together one night and they meet during this honeymoon phase when like the 6 couples are in this honeymoon, and this time it was in Malibu, and they get together and everybody meets each other like, oh, that's what you look like. Oh, because they all technically dated each other 3 days before this. And Bertice is like, yeah, Raven's fucking hot. And he's saying some questionable stuff. And then they go home and him and Nancy are chilling in the bed, and Bertice is like, he's like, yeah, like I would definitely rather bang Nancy for sure. Like I would, or Raven for sure. He's like, I would tear that ass up. Paraphrasing again. He's all about, he's like, I would never go for you, which like just, I get he's being honest looks wise, and maybe they're like trying to propel the storyline or the concept of the show. But logically, as a man, not saying I've always made the best moves, but that's like the worst move. Like you should probably keep that one to yourself, or maybe wait till like your confessional with the producer and say it, because you're not going to say yes to this girl anyways. But yeah, this was like the whole thing with him, and then like a bunch of stuff happens, and like she says some stuff about abortion where he's all weird about, and he's weird with her all a few times, and like it's like he turns off his corny switch when the cameras aren't rolling, and then she's like, yeah, he's just being weird, and then it goes back and he's like, yeah, I was being weird because the cameras were off. And then like the day before the wedding, they go and get these bracelets that are like welded onto their wrist, and the wedding happens, and this is where we're left. Is Nancy says, yes, I do, I want to marry you, and it goes to end of the episode, and you're like, what's gonna happen? And this is where I'll start with my predictions. And I think Bertice says no. Why do I think Bertice says no? I think because he's 25 and not physically attracted to her, and probably is getting off on like the amount of followers he's getting, and he'll probably lean back into that abortion take that he had, where she's like, she's like for eugenics, and well, not like, you know, like not like the Hitler kind of eugenics, but like if my kid was like, you know, mentally disabled, I would, and I knew I could fix it, she would abort it. He's probably gonna lean into that and be like, yeah, that was not cool. That's why I said no. Um, which is whatever. Like that's fair. If that's your beliefs, that's fair. I don't really ever think he was gonna say yeah. I mean, same personality with Raven. Yeah, he would say yeah. Um, and also one thing I forgot to touch on is Nancy has this weird thing in the pods with this guy Andrew, this Asian guy. Don't know why that matters, but he is Asian and he is a guy. And so Nancy and this guy Andrew have this thing, and like Andrew's just like this weirdo, well, not weirdo, but he's like trying to be like the most interesting man on earth type thing going. And Nancy basically says no to him. He's clearly there for just the followers, because it cuts to the interview after he gets denied the proposal, and he's, you know, putting in eye drops to make it look like he's crying. All-time bad guy of the show. He goes and meets up with them at the bars when they get back to Dallas. They're all from Dallas, which, surprise, this is a fucking Texas show. They all get back to Dallas, and he's like chatting it up with Nancy. Nancy's crying. Bertice flexes on him. He's like, what, dude? Like, I'm kind of concerned now that you guys are talking. And after that's never brought up again, I just thought that was kind of interesting. Something I should have brought up, probably, you know, linearly in time. The next one we're going to talk about is Matt and Colleen. So Matt and Colleen like gets turned down by like 3 guys. And Colleen's the one that I like. I think she's the most attractive. Anyways, ballet dancer, ballerina. Totally up my alley. Maybe not the brightest bulb, kind of like, you know, says she's like a sorority girl. So yeah, I mean, ballerina girl that's, you know, kind of ditzy. That's generally my vibe. And she gets turned down by Brennan and Cole, who we're going to talk about in a minute, and she ends up with this dude Matt, who had previously been married. Despite he's only 28, she's 25, so again, she's way too young to be on the show. She should be, you know, she's one of those people that she could make it. She might not end up with cats, so she should have tried way harder than before going on the show. And Matt's like this just insecure. He was married before, and his wife cheated on him with like one of his friends and got pregnant, and they got divorced. And so now he has all this mental baggage. And anytime Colleen does anything that's not what he likes, he's just like, fuck it, dude, I'm out of here. Like the most dramatic guy you could ever see in like a show. So he this whole time, like her and Cole had a thing, but Cole ended up picking a different girl. So she like talks to Cole, and Cole's like, you're attractive. And she's like, yeah, you're pretty attractive too. And that turns into like him leaving. And then they go out one night and they're like, oh, let's go to a club. And the guys end up not going to a club, but the girls do. So it becomes a girls' night, and he gets all pissed and drunk and packs his shit. And you're like, dude, this guy sucks. And, you know, he seems like a pretty successful business guy, but like chill. So anyways, they go through this whole thing. I don't think they're going to make it. It's like by far the most unnecessary drama, which is great for the show. But the most unnecessary drama, they haven't even gotten to their wedding or anything yet. And I think I think he might say yes, because like time's running out. But I think she's going to say no. I think Colleen's like, no, fuck this guy. Like, you're crazy. Because even before, like, they're having dinner with his friends, and she's like, yeah, I would say no. So, or maybe it's with her parents. I can't remember. So, yeah, I think she says no there. And then Cole and Zeneb, like, this one's the most complicated here for me to determine. Cole is like this like man child. He's only 26, I think. Yeah, I wrote down 26, so he's 26 in this video. Cole's like, he said, like, they sit down and he's asking people, like, do you like the Jonas Brothers? Because that's a deal breaker. Like, and I get you have to go somewhere with this conversation. You can't just, it's hard to just start these conversations without actually seeing somebody and you're just kind of talking through a wall. So he's 26. Technically, Colleen would have been the better match. Whatever. That probably would have worked. It would have been like a Willy Wonka wedding, but whatever. He ends up with Zeneb, who's a 32-year-old flight attendant. And this girl's a disaster. I think I've dated girls that are like this, and just not fun. That would be my explanation of her. Just not fun. I think they're both annoying. Like Matt's super annoying and like just super, or not Matt, Cole is just super like unaware of just general surroundings. At one point, he's like, they're having dinner and he just straight up asks her like, are you bipolar? Which, not what you want to do. He makes the same mistake Bertice makes, and he's like, I'm just not attracted to you like I am Colleen. I don't know why. Like, it just, dude's just got marbles going on up there. But I do think that Zeneb is just, she's going to be committed to the point where she says yes. And I think Cole is going to be so far down this rabbit hole that he says yes, but by the reunion, they will be not together. It's one of those things where it's almost optics, and then we'll see if they last, but I don't think they do. And the last couple is Alexa and Brennan. The big hurdle here is Alexa is Jewish and Brennan is not. But overall, this couple gets along the most. Alexa's not my personal cup of tea, but I feel like we would be friends. Like, she just seems like a fun girl. She has fun friends. Her dad's a cool guy. Brennan's kind of just like this whatever dude, which is perfect. So the only like issue there is like, will he be enough and make enough money, because she lives like this high flying lifestyle. Her parents clearly come from money, but I am rooting for them, and I do think they both say yes. And this is our best shot at love in this story. So through three seasons, as far as I know, there's one couple still together. This would be our best shot at the second one. So we will see. And that is where we're at leading into next week. Hopefully that flowed together a little good. I'm still trying to get it down it's just rambling for 35 minutes. I'm not Tim Dillon yet, obviously. So it's a work in progress. We don't know where we're going to be or where we're going to end up, and we're doing our best, doing our very, very best. But that is where we're at on that. I will be back recording an episode next. I got to change shirts, so it looks like it's a different day. Probably out tomorrow will be my college football picks and previews for the weekend. So it will be a sports show. But until then, I'm Kohler. This is the Kohler Show.